Welcome back to 30 at 6 on Cecil TV. Today is Monday, September 16th. I'm Alison Donley.
And I'm Rob Churnside. And Allison, welcome back to 30 at 6. I know you were involved in heavy-duty top-secret research.
Yes, heavy-duty top-secret research. Took me away for a couple of weeks.
Well, can you tell our viewers what's on the show tonight?
I can. So we've got Dialogue with Leadership with Dr. Alan McCarthy. We'll talk about the stuff related to the opioid lawsuit and the upcoming campaign season and other stuff. And then we've got the president of the Cecil County Democrats Club, Jennifer Castellano-Graham, talking about their upcoming barbecue. And you've got some interviews too. Well,
we're going to talk to an esteemed scientist about one of the most feared and misunderstood creatures to ever swim the waters of the Chesapeake Bay and even the 5 rivers of Cecil County.
Oh, is it?
It's not Chessie.
Oh, any hints?
Nah, we'll just let this one slip away.
All right, fine. We'll find out soon.
And we're going to talk about Charlestown Colonial days.
Yes, we have a Colonial gentleman in the studio for the first time.
Well, we brought him back in the time machine.
Oh, right, obviously.
So, that's pretty good. In fact, the summer zipped by. This is our last show of the summer.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even thought about that. Yes, this coming weekend we've got the Fall Festival in Elkton that starts on Friday and goes through Saturday, I believe.
All weekend.
And there are quite a few other fall festivals coming up, so we will be talking about them as they...
Yeah, it's just one big party, I guess. Continues
Yes.
in Cecil County all year, and seems like, 50 years ago, we had Woodstock, and we had the moon landing, and our director, Doug Donley, got his first drum set.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, a lot of big firsts 50 years ago this summer.
And of course, 277 years ago, you know what happened.
Oh, of course I know what happened. What happened?
Charlestown became a town.
Wow, I did not know that.
So we got a lot on the show tonight, and next week, guess who's coming?
You can give me...
I'd like to introduce you.
Okay, please.
Hi, Allison. I'm going to be on the show next week.
Rob, we can't fit Jimmy the Giraffe in the basement. We can go to him.
Jimmy the Giraffe from Plumpton Park Zoo?
Yeah.
You're close.
Oh, well.
We should let our viewers tune in next week.
Okay. All right, we will do that. Anything else coming up?
I'm waiting to hear the news.
Now a word from our sponsors. Good evening, and welcome back to 30 at 6 on Cecil TV. We have another installment of Dialogue with Leadership with County Executive Dr. Alan McCarthy. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Great. As you know, Cecil County joined a lawsuit with other states and municipalities across the country against OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma earlier this year. Can you give us a status update?
As it presently stands, it's supposed to go to trial in October, but Purdue Pharmaceutical has stepped forward and offered a cash settlement of between $10 and $12 billion. Mm-hmm. They've said that they would put up $3 billion of their own personal monies, and they declared bankruptcy almost immediately after saying that. So basically, I'm not certain exactly how this will come down, but they've made a cash settlement. There are a number of states' attorneys that are willing to accept it, but there's a number of other states which are unwilling, saying it's not enough money.
And that includes Maryland, actually.
Yes, it does.
So do you have any sense of a timeline when we'll get some additional updates?
I really don't know. A bankruptcy of this magnitude could go on for a long, long time, depending on how much the Stacklers want to fight it. But they said that they've offered a settlement because they don't want to waste the money, their money, plus other money which could be used to treat the drug-addicted people. Mm-hmm. So time will tell. It could be that other pharmaceutical companies will come forward and basically enlarge the till or the money to be distributed, as well as the distributors. And there's 3 of those, and also a number of retail pharmacies which have been included in the suit.
Do you have any idea at what point we would begin talking about how the money would be spent in the county?
Well, I have a very good idea of how I would like to spend the money if we get it. I would like to put a certain portion of it towards rehabilitation of the people that are currently on drugs. I would like to spend some of the money to create a worthwhile educational opportunity to keep people from getting on the drugs. And the rest of it I would like to dedicate to the corpus to an ongoing funding source for Cecil County.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see that because I know that when there were settlements with the tobacco companies,
Yes.
the money was spent in surprising ways unrelated to
That is absolutely correct.
tobacco
Litigation.
cessation and prevention. So
That's one of the
see.
things I'm concerned about. Many times politicians see a huge amount of money in the coffers and all of a sudden it gets spent.
right, yeah.
So I'd like to basically see the corpus invested and the county could live on or basically supplement their budget going forward, probably indefinitely, with the returns, invested returns of the corpus of the money, which I think would be a smart way to do it.
So speaking of populations in need, the county recently applied for a $380,000 in state grant funds to bolster the capacity of Meeting Ground, which is I would say the county's primary organization to serve homeless people. They run homeless shelters and meal programs and provide other resources. Why do we apply for this funding?
Basically because we have a growing and established population of unemployed or basically homeless people, and the thing is Meeting Ground basically has a shortage of staff. They want to basically take some of the money to hire 2 individuals to help basically find better ways to deal with the homeless people and hopefully find them more permanent living arrangements so they're no longer on the street or living in the woods.
Do you know when we find out about whether we'll receive the
Probably
grant
within
funding?
6 to 8 months.
Okay.
But it'll basically, the primary purpose of the money is to get the staffing to deal with homeless folks.
Is there anything new related to the Southfields development to share?
Well, they'll have a public hearing tonight, as a matter of fact, in the town of Elkton. Ray Jackson basically has proposed a PUD for Elkton. I think some of the grounds are going to be withdrawn from the PUD. I think that the town of Elkton has asked for it not to be included in the enterprise zone.
What would
But,
that mean?
Well, basically, the companies that came here would not receive a financial incentive in terms of their invested capital to get a return on that investment.
Okay, and we should say Ray Jackson is from the developer.
Yes, he's the one who basically is a
Stonewall
contract purchaser
Capital.
of the grounds.
And PUD is public use
Yeah, exactly.
development. So at the previous Elkton presentation, there seemed to be significant negative feedback from
Yes, that's
people in the
correct.
town. Do you think more needs to be done to sell the idea?
I think that there needs to be more information as to how it will benefit Cecil County, primarily Elkton, because the entire development's taking place in town limits. The people have concerns about the road, the utilities, and also the school systems. All of these things I think can be worked through. We just basically need to put all the information on the table and let people look at it and become comfortable with what's going on. The other option they have, which has been on the books for 20 years, is to build 2,500 single-family dwellings, which I do not think is a good idea at all.
Why not?
There's no jobs associated with it, and we don't have that capacity to absorb that many homes in a brief period of time. This will probably take 5 to 7 years to establish. It comes with jobs, it comes with eateries, it comes with recreational venue, and then high-class housing, and basically also apartment buildings, and possibly even a marina down on the Elk River.
Yeah, I heard there is the employer that might go into that space is a relatively high-paying one. Do we have any information about
No,
that?
I can't speak to that right now.
We'll circle back to
But
that
most
later.
of those jobs do pay far more than what's customary in Cecil County.
Okay. So last question. There's a lot of talk about potential candidates for county executive on the Republican side, though no one has, well, as last I checked, no one had officially committed, though I think that may have changed as of today. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a number of people that are interested in this position. I think there's one female candidate. She's created a re-election campaign, and I was told there's another gentleman currently works for the state of Maryland who is to apply, but I believe he already has. I'll let him have his own announcement. I welcome these people to come forward. We have lots of issues and problems to be addressed and concerns to be dealt with in Cecil County, and if they have better ideas than I would certainly like to hear them. So I welcome any and all comers. This is not an easy position. I enjoy it, but I'm more than glad to hear what anybody else has to say.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here, okay?
Welcome back to 30 at 6. I'm here with Cecil County Democrats Club President Jen Castellano-Graham. We're talking about the Cecil County Democrats Annual BBQ, which is coming up on September 28th. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So tell me about the barbecue. What is its purpose?
So the barbecue is our annual fundraiser that we have, and it really is to not just bolster the values of the Democratic Party throughout Cecil County and raise awareness, but its also primary purpose is to raise funds for our scholarship fund that we have every year. We give out scholarships to the local high school students within the Cecil County to go to Cecil College. Yeah.
And who do you expect to attend every year? I know we
So-
often get candidates.
Yeah, often we do have candidates who come. Last year we actually had several. This is an off year for presidential and governor and senator. So we are looking more to speak to our general population about just the values themselves and regrouping to get prepared for 2020. We have Dr. Maya Rockymore Cummings who's coming. She's actually the chair of the Democratic Party for Maryland, as well as Alison Galbraith, who is the second vice president of the party as well, and they'll be speaking with us. And we might have a little smattering here and there of other pop-up surprise visitors as well. But it's more than just speakers. We also have beer and prizes, as well as silent auction, and 3 bands that are going to be coming. So it'll be really a lot of family fun. Yeah.
So you touched on the fact that this is an off year. So what are the priorities of the barbecue and of the club?
Yeah, so last year we had a theme that was riding the blue wave, right? It was nationwide across the board, and everybody really got involved. It was something that we could tackle and sink our teeth into. This year, Dr. Rockymore Cummings had come up with a very witty, very poignant theme of Go Deep. And the reason why it's Go Deep is because we really want to know what our constituents are looking for. We feel like there's a part of our party that has gotten away from what our actual constituents are interested in and what their values are. A lot of them will tend to feel used sometimes at election season. So we're doing our due diligence now and coming to the board and saying, instead of what we're proposing as our platform, we want to know what you're interested in. So what are the values that you're holding that are really touching your family personally in your personal life? So we're going out and holding forums. We're having surveys. We have teams that are out at every public event that we can get a table at to really find out what our general populace, the man on the street or a woman, as well, is really interested in. So it could be from jobs to taxation to healthcare. So the gun control laws, anything, just even the diversity and what's going on in Washington as well as Annapolis. So it's across the board.
When you talk to these people and when you talk about the people whose opinions and sentiments you're trying to gather, are you focusing mostly on people you know are Democrats or everyone?
Everyone, actually, because truly, when you really come down to it, politics serves everyone. And even the Democratic Party does have to serve everyone. It's regardless of party. And most of the time, if not all the time, we dream about having that perfect partisan establishment where, regardless of who's in the House, we're going to work together. And that's really what we're looking for, is a political scene where people are working together to actually get things done, because I really feel that everyone across the board can remark on the sentiment of frustration right now, that we really don't feel like enough is getting done in the areas that really need to be focused on. So we're asking everyone, and we're also asking people who aren't even registered yet. So because we really feel like the powerful movement is going to come from our younger voters. Those who are right now in their senior year should be registering to vote. They should be getting out in 2020, and if they don't have that information, they can come and see me or any one of my team, or just go to the post office and apply there.
Whatever works.
Non-judgmental, wherever you go. But we really want to not just register people, but get them out to vote after, because that next step is really where it happens.
Right.
If you don't actually do it, and then where that interest comes of whether they're Republican or they're Democrat or Independent or whatever party they hold to, all of them have to go into that booth at the end of the year.
Right.
So
whatever your political leanings, at the barbecue, you'll have some speakers, you'll have lots of food. There's always a ton of food,
including vegetarian this year. So
oh, that's great. That's great. Good,
Yes.
good to point out. And then there's music. What kind
we
of
have
live music?
three
do you have in
different
store this year?
bands. One is
Wow.
actually a made-up team, a conglomerate that has come together from various conversations. And I apologize that I don't have all the bands' names, but the
okay.
one is a mixture of our chair of the bylaws committee, our secretary, one of the players from the central committee, and one other. So it's an interesting mixture, but they're actually playing like a mixture of bluegrass, folk, of banjo and violin. So it'll be an interesting mix to see what that happens. The other two bands are also family. They're all of them are local. So it's looking to have a really fun time with it.
Cool.
Plus, we're also having, as I said, games like cornhole and that type of thing. We'll have a silent auction. And it's really just a full-on barbecue. So the moment you get your ticket, it's a smorgasbord. Yeah.
Fun. Where can people get tickets?
So they can either see any of the members who are honestly walking around with them in their pocket at any given moment. I have 20 right now for sale. And you can also buy them online, which is cecildemocratclub.org/shop. And there's two different options. One is for children, which is $12 plus the processing fee if it's online. And children is 2 to 10. And then anyone 10 and older is an adult, and that's $28. If online, it's $29 and change for the processing fee. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other upcoming events? We're running
We
low on
have
time
a
because
ton,
couldn't
and I
stop
will try
talking
and be
about-
really brief about because they're very important. And I wrote them down so my committees would not get upset with me. So we have the Elkton Fall Fest, which you probably have
Yep,
already
this weekend.
advertised on the 21st. That's right. So we are squeezing in a table there. We'll be sitting with the Central Committee. We'll have a canvassing and phone banking day on the 22nd. That's a Sunday from 10 to 1. We have a tax reform forum on the 25th at the library, the Elkton Library, and that's from 6:30 to 8:30, where they're actually going over how the tax reform is actually personally affecting anyone. So senior citizens, employees, whomever. We have a You Can Run social coming up on October 25th.
Yeah.
That's huge. That is a workshop that we're putting together with the Democratic Party to really help anyone who wants to run for office. The basics, nuts and bolts of fundraising, canvassing, phone banking, how to get your word out, how to get advertising, what the do's and don'ts are, to really help anybody who wants to run for office.
Yeah.
And then the last one is LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Council. We actually have a Cecil chapter here, and it's they're having a trunk or treat fundraiser on October 26th, and that all the information could be found on our website.
Great. Which is?
Our website is cecildemocratclub.org.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Jen Castellano-Graham is the president of the Cecil County Democrats Club.
Thank you.
And now Cecil County and the World 30 at 6 goes back into time to talk to Karl Fockler from Charlestown about Charlestown Colonial Day.
Good evening, Rob.
Welcome,
Lieutenant Colonel Nathaniel Ramsey of the Maryland 3rd Regiment, for the record. Yes, sir.
At the ready.
At the ready.
So tell us about Colonial Days in Charlestown. Where can we start?
Well, Charlestown, this Saturday coming up on the 21st, from 10 to 4, we're having our first Colonial Fair and Marketplace in, well, let's say 30 plus years, since, well, 1976, to celebrate the colonial times in Charlestown. Because Charlestown, back in the day, in 1742 it was founded, but it was enacted by the General Assembly that Charlestown would have a market 2 times a year, because Charlestown is at the top of the bay and easily accessible on the Old Post Road.
Right.
So people from all over, Pennsylvania, Delaware, they would all bring their goods down to Charlestown, and they would have a big day at the market. So we're kind of starting that back up again, and we're very excited about it.
That's awesome. And Old Post Road is now more or less Route 7, correct?
Yes, so Route 7. Charlestown, because of its proximity on the top of the bay, it was the furthest northern deepwater port at that point in time. It was to rival Baltimore back in the day. And actually, they used to say that Baltimore would never become anything because it was too far from Charlestown.
How about that?
But then, unfortunately, there was a big hurricane that came through, and the channel closed up, so it kind of fell into a little bit of peacefulness and quietness. And
unfortunately, from one perspective, maybe fortunately for us.
I agree. We love it in Charlestown.
So it was a prominent town, a port, and people came twice a year to bring their hogsheads and their all kinds of stuff like that. Now, will there be the participants in Charlestown dressed as you are, Karl? Or
Yes, indeed. We're all the townsfolk and even people from far afield. If you're in Elkton or Rising Sun or Pennsylvania or Delaware, if you want to come down to the Colonial Fair and you have your Colonial gear, please put it on and come join us.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We are going to be having General Washington is going to be joining us, and we're very excited about him coming. He stayed in Charlestown numerous times, quite frankly, and of course Charlestown being it was a big munitions depot back in the Revolutionary War, so it was quite significant during the time. And General Washington's a dear friend of mine, Lieutenant Colonel Nathaniel Ramsey. So I'm very excited about rekindling with the General.
Colonel Ramsey, thanks for
Yes.
clearing that up. And
Yes.
there will also be food.
There would be food. There will also be a pie eating contest, which is a remnant throwback from the day. So we're really looking forward to that. We also have there'll be some light fare, and I should say that the fair will be held on the courthouse green, and the courthouse green is right in the center of town. We'll have parking at Avalon Park, and which is a sizable parking area and a short walking distance to the courthouse green. Now, from there we also have the Tory House, and there's the Red Line and the Indian Queen. All of these were all Revolutionary War, colonial era homes, and walking tours throughout town, as well as we'll be having the Delaware Colonial Regiment is going to be coming out as well, so they'll be encamped there on the green. And they'll be doing demonstrations with musket fire and drills, as well as on 2 occasions throughout the day, we'll also be firing the cannon out at Long Point as well. And George Washington will be attending with us for one of those firings as well.
That sounds like a great day, and I know you're going to have some old-time live music. And,
We'll be having music.
Animals as well.
We'll be having some animals as well for the kids. We'll also be having artisans and so forth for tinsmith and potters and candle making, and some of the activities will be participatory. So if you have your children and so forth, so they're more than welcome to participate and make a craft as well.
Saturday, 10 to 4.
That's correct.
And it sounds like a great event. And it costs how much?
Well, Colonial Charlestown, and the purpose of Colonial Charlestown is to help restore and maintain the colonial, the buildings and atmosphere, ambiance in Charlestown. So all the profits or all the monies go to, it's a 501c3. So cost of admission is $4 at the gate, and children under 12 are free.
That's great.
So really, we just hope it's affordable for everyone to come on out and just experience about a little bit of Old Town Charlestown. So
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully Cecil TV will be able to capture the event.
that'd be fantastic.
And you're going to be garbed thusly, correct?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Awesome.
indeed. So
Thank you, Colonel.
yes, indeed. Real pleasure. Thank you very much. Hope to see you there on Saturday.
And now, Cecil County and the world. You should know that Doug Donley and I and Cecil TV host the open mic at Wesley's on Route 273 in Fair Hill every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. And one of the regulars up there on the drums is our good friend, Dr. Desmond Kahn, PhD in biology, worked for the state of Maryland and the state of Delaware in fish biology. Des, welcome to Cecil
Rob,
TV 36.
great to see you again.
It's great to see you, and I'm glad you didn't say, I'd rather be fishing. Great to have you on the show. Tell us about the American eel. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Say it.
Anguilla rostrata. Well, the reason I became interested in eels and started doing some research was a report that came out in 2014 that made the surprising claim that American eels are endangered with extinction.
Wow.
I was at a fishery meeting in Delaware in 2015, and one of the watermen said, if you tell us eels are going extinct, we say you're crazy because we've got them falling out of our crab pots. So I said, eels going extinct? What? And I looked into it, and indeed, an organization called the International Union for the Conservation of Nature had claimed that American eels are in danger of extinction. So I started conducting research, and what I found was that while they had declined to a low point about 95 through 2003, since then, the research I conducted showed they had rebounded. And so by, say, 2014, they were back up about up 50% to where they had been in 81, which is the peak year in the period I studied.
Well, you know, as a kid, I used to catch eels, and we'd always throw them back. You know, get rid of it. Mm-hmm. But aren't they good eating?
They're considered to be a delicacy in several parts of the world. Wow. Asia, they're in sushi many times, and in Europe they're a delicacy. In fact, they like to smoke them over there.
How do they keep them lit?
That was my line, buddy.
I stole it. Anyway, that's great. So you did some research and decided that everything that you found out, eels are okay.
Yeah, and I published that in a paper that came out this year.
Wow. So we see them in Cecil County, right?
Oh, they're quite numerous. When I was a kid, we used to fish these little tiny brooks, you know, fishing for sunnies and so forth. And once in a while, we'd hook an eel. And then we had a battle on our hands. And these little streams, maybe this wide, you get an eel out of there like this long sometimes, you know.
I'm not going to say holy mackerel, but wow.
Great restraint, Rob.
I had to say.
They're very. Then when I was working for Delaware Fish and Wildlife, we used to electrofish one of the streams that we stock with trout, the White Clay Creek. And we would go up there and turn on, hit the current, and these eels would come boiling out from under these like tree roots and rocks. I mean, eels this big, very numerous.
You're going to have to explain, Dr. Kahn, to me and to our viewers, electrofish?
Yeah, well, that's, you use a electric current that you turn on in the water, and it shocks the fish and brings them, they tend to come up so you can catch them, but it's basically does not hurt them, so you can take measurements and so forth and then release them.
About that. People do it with worms, bring them out of the ground.
I don't know about worms, Rob. I'm a fish guy.
I'm always wondering about the worms, you know what I mean? But fish eat worms.
That's true.
So, Cecil County has eels, but they can't go above the dam, right?
Conowingo Dam stops all eels from the Susquehanna River's tremendous length. It's the largest river on the East Coast of North America. It's basically bereft of eels. And that is unfortunate. For example, there's certain kinds of freshwater mussels, at least one species or more, that depends on eels to transport its larvae up and down the stream. Where in contrast, the Delaware River is undammed. It's got eels throughout its length, very abundant.
Wow. And eels they don't stay in one place. Don't they come from far away?
Very far away, yes. The Sargasso Sea. Every eel we have, every American eel, is born in the Sargasso Sea, which is down in the area of Bermuda, and they ride the Gulf Stream. The larvae ride the Gulf Stream up to our area, and they bail out and head for shore.
But that means the parent eels have to swim down the Sargasso Sea
right.
to lay the eggs, right?
Right. They have to return to the Sargasso Sea to spawn.
So they're migratory.
And yes, and they die once they spawn. That's it. They go out with a bang, though.
You know, what a way to go. So they come from the Sargasso, and then they just come up and start. How big are they when they come up here?
well, when they arrive, say at the mouth of streams, they're about a couple inches long. They're clear. They're known as glass eels. And then they gradually add pigment and they move up the streams. Now, a large portion of them remain in estuaries for their life. But the ones that come up the streams tend to be females, and they can get to be quite large.
How long would it take for a little glass eel to get yay big?
Well, sometimes they've been known to live up to 30 years in streams.
Wow.
But that's not the average, but that's some of the longer lived ones.
And you say they're good eating.
Yeah.
If one of our viewers catches an eel, rather than throwing it back, they want to cook it up, how would they do it?
I would pan fry, clean them and pan fry them, you know.
And that's how you eat an eel.
Mm-hmm.
Do other fish eat eels?
Yeah, bigger fish. I mean, they're used as bait for rockfish or striped bass and other fish like, I believe, cobia.
We know about rockfish. We like rockfish.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever studied rockfish?
Yes, quite a bit. Mm-hmm.
I can see into the future where you could come on the show and bring us some rockfish and we could even check it out.
Well, I can bring you pictures.
Can you can't catch one?
Yeah, I can. I've been known to.
Avid fisherman, doctor, biologist, drummer, Desmond Kahn, thank you so much for being on Cecil
Hey, it was
TV.
great. Thanks, Rob.